Hi all, it's Grant Coleman, President of the Australian Barbecue Alliance. Today we're filming a judging methodology. We hope that this helps new judges and teams understand our judging methodology. We encourage all new judges to watch this video, understand this video before they come to an event. The ABA is always looking for ways to improve our judging. Finally, I'd like to thank Demi, Jason and Vaughan for the presentation of this judging methodology. I hope this demonstrates that we are continuing to improve our judging methodology.
Hi, and thank you for registering your interest to become a judge with the Australian Barbecue Alliance. The ABA is a not-for-profit incorporated company that runs barbecue competitions around Australia. The ABA is supported by volunteers who help to run and sanction the competitions around the country. They take time off work to support the teams to run a fair and equitable system at the competitions. You, as an independent judge, are a really valuable resource for our competitions and we couldn't run them without you, so thank you again for registering your interest to become a judge with the ABA. Today, we are going to run through the ABA judging methodology to help you understand what you need to do on the day at the competition. This judging course will help you to judge consistently and fair across every box that hits the table that comes to you while you're judging at this contest. Thank you for registering your interest with the event promoter. All of the judges at competitions are volunteers and we thank you for your time. Judges are from different backgrounds across the country and we really like having different people who have judged before and new judges join us for these judging sessions. We encourage our promoters to have a broad cross-section of people. On the day of a contest, the ABA head judge and crew will run through this judging methodology with you and you need to participate in the training at every time you judge at a contest. Unfortunately, if you have any allergies, barbecue judging is probably not for you. The ABA runs a championship series and awards a grand champion at the end of the year, along with protein series and a number of other competitions. The teams competing at a competition spend a lot of money to get there. By the time we add in the price of meat, travel, accommodation, it can be thousands of dollars and time away from family. This is why we make sure we have a fair and equitable process to ensure the best team on the day wins the competition. Given the amount of time and money the teams put into travelling to these competitions, it's really important that you take this job really seriously. It's important on the day, if you have any questions, to make sure you're talking to the head judge or the crew. We need to make sure this is an equitable process and that all teams are awarded the scores that they deserve. Any judges on the day seem to be giving overly high scores when the rest of their table is giving average scores, or someone giving a really low ball score will be spoken to by the head judge to see why they might be slightly off point from the other judges on their table. This is to make sure that all the scores that are awarded to that team are in the same ballpark and people are not seeing things or tasting things different to everyone else on the table. Thank you for your time so far. I'm now going to hand over to two of our most experienced and long-standing head judges to actually run you through the judging process and what you'll see on the day. For any new teams and current teams, we also hope this is a great resource for you to understand how the judges course is delivered to our judges on the day at a competition.
Let's get into the judging process. You will experience full table service today so that we can get through the process as efficiently as possible. This process is to ensure that your focus is squarely on the judging process. We ensure that there is a fully blind judging process and the teams are completely separated from the judges with no one in each other's vision. Teams receive an anonymised code and that code will be put onto the boxes so that you have no idea whose box you're judging. We will shuffle judges around to make sure that there's no one sitting at the same table every time. This ensures a fair and a practical judging system. So sit back, make some new friends and enjoy talking with like-minded people. Head judges will select table captains from some of the more experienced judges. Your role as a table captain will be to present turn-in boxes, collate scorecards and ensure the data that is entered is correct before handing it to the head judge. After each protein, you will be asked to shuffle tables to make sure that there is a good cross-section of judges. The shuffle is to ensure that varying levels of experience are at each table. If you are an immediate family member of a barbecue team competing on the day, you are not allowed to judge. We will look to distribute team boxes as efficiently and effectively as possible. This ensures that the food is judged as quickly as possible. Some boxes will be held on a secondary table while the judging process completes. The ABA crew will move efficiently to distribute every box as quickly as possible. Each box will contain 6 portions at a minimum of 50 grams each. In some cases, there will be multiple cuts in each box. When a box contains multiple cuts, you are encouraged to try each different cut. If multiple portions are provided in the hand-in box, judges are asked to provide an aggregate score of each portion. If one portion is a 10 on taste and another portion is an 8 on taste, you aggregate those scores to a 9. If a taste portion is a 10 and the second one is a 9, then there are no half scores. You are encouraged to round up to the next number. If there are multiple cuts provided in a turn-in box, you are to score based on an aggregate of those portions. If one portion scores a 10 on taste and another portion scores a 9 on taste, you are encouraged to round up to the next number. There is a scoring guide at the bottom of each judge's scorecard. We do not look to deduct marks if overall the visual appeal is quite high. If you do score a 7 or below, you are asked to fill out a judge's feedback form provided by the head judge. If you have an exceptional turn-in and you want to let the teams know about it, feel free to fill out a comment card and tell them why you loved it so much. Judges are asked to judge each box on its own merit and not compare them with other boxes you have just received. A box with 3 different cuts of meat should not be judged higher than a box with 1 cut of meat, just because there is more portions in the box. The temperature of the portions is not a factor in the judging process. The sweats are very real and happen at every competition. If you are feeling full or have an aversion to a specific protein, we may ask you to sit out for a round. You are encouraged to pace yourself throughout the day. You may want to make a meal out of every turn-in. However, you do not eat one meal every hour for 4 straight hours. So take your time, pace yourself. After that, when the judging process is finished, try the one you like the most and finish that off and discard the rest. We do not want to have a table of full judges, as this can have a negative impact on the scoring process.
So continuing on the judging process, we've got the 3 categories of judging that we require on the scorecard, which will probably be flashed up for you. Presentation, texture and taste. There are 3 categories weighted differently. Each presentation, texture times 2, taste times 3. Things for presentation that we want to look in the box, we want to make sure that the portions are uniform in size, that the overall colouring of any or all of the cuts is uniform, and there is consistent saucing, seasoning across all or any of the portions in the box. The hand-in box is packed neatly and overall is visually appealing and appetising. Some of the things that we don't want to look for when we open up a box are the portion chunks or slices are inconsistent, the sauces are gluggy, the colour and finishing is looking great, the box is overpacked, overflowing, or it's underpacked, looks sparsely packed. Another thing about presentation is that we are judging on the protein that is in the box. We're not judging on the garnish, whether it be parsley, whether it be foil, or whether it be lettuce or kale. We are only judging the meat that has been provided in the box for the judging process. Right, moving on to texture scores. Some of the things that you're looking for in a good texture score, especially on chicken, any skin should be bite through and not rubbery. When you take a nice bite of the chicken, it wants to come away cleanly and not pull all the skin off with you. Same thing with pork ribs. You want to have a nice clean bite through the pork rib. You don't want all of the pork rib meat to come off in your one bite or one taste sample that you get given. That means it is overdone. Also with pork ribs, we encourage you to bite and take your taste from the center of the pork rib. Don't bite the pork rib from either end, and that way you'll get the best experience when tasting that pork rib. Alright, brisket. What we're looking for is a nice, amazing mouthfeel when you bite into your brisket slice. It has a nice texture. It's not too rubbery like a bit of old leather as you're trying to bite through it. Burnt ends, you want them, if they're included, to be nice and caramelly and also have a nice, consistent, firm mouthfeel in your mouth. Moving along to taste. This is important and is subjective to each and every judge, but we want you to keep in mind things like balance. If you're not a big fan of chili, you're not a big fan of pepper, you're not a big fan of something a little bit tangy, we want to make sure that these flavours are balanced. You don't want you to judge on the fact that you don't like those products in those meats. What we want is the flavours complementing the meat with still some meat flavour present and the overall taste is pleasant. What we're chasing is a balance of flavours. We want a little bit of heat, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, a little bit of savoury. What we don't want is one of the flavours overpowering over the other flavours. That is where they might get a little bit of a demarcation in taste. We also ask that you put your personal preferences aside and make sure that you are chasing that balanced flavour. One of the things that is not good for flavour is it is wildly out of balance. You take a bite of it and there's just so much chili flavouring in that category, in that protein, that you are unable to taste anything for the rest of the day. That's not what we want, and that would constitute a demarcation. Also, if something's so salty it's inedible, or so peppery it blows your head off. So as you can see, there is some scoring guide samples there for appearance, and they're very good representations of what we are seeing as the boxes come in. The beef brisket there, you can see good, consistent, even slices. That is a 10. That is excellent. We're not chasing perfection for 10s, we're chasing excellent for 10s. 9s come down a little bit further there on the scorecard. You can see that there's nice, consistent, even brisket slices with burnt ends, maybe just a touch out of shape compared to the rest of it. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it is a very good looking box, so I definitely have no trouble in awarding that a 9. And then further down is a 7. There's a little bit of discoloration in that brisket, and the slices are a little bit uneven. But again, it's not an overly bad looking box, so a 7 is more than fair. But if you did give that a 7, I'd be filling out a feedback card and telling the team what they could do to improve their brisket. While we're chatting about brisket, something that we need to chat about is the smoke rings on brisket. While it is visually appealing, it is not necessary to have a smoke ring on that brisket to score highly. Sometimes the hand-in might come in without the smoke ring, but still look amazing and excellent, and there's no problem giving that a 10, even though it does not have a smoke ring. Moving on to chicken, you can see the grouping of chicken there at the top. It's glazed beautifully, sauced beautifully, all the portions are even, and it's presented in a really nice pattern. I'd have no trouble giving that a 10. That is excellent, almost borderline perfect, but again, perfection is not what we're chasing for a 10, it's excellent. Drop down to an 8 and you'll see that those portions are a little bit inconsistent in sizing, a little bit inconsistent in sourcing, but overall it's still a very visually appealing box. So an 8 is more than worthwhile for that box. Come down to the 7, you can see that the portions have lost their consistency in sizing, and the sourcing is also a little bit gluggy and a little bit off-putting. But again, still not a bad looking box. 7 all day. Fill out a feedback card, let the judges know why you thought that. Alright, moving along to lamb. Great category, but lamb category is a great category to point out where you might receive different cuts of meat in the same box for the judges to try. Sometimes you'll have chopped, pulled, rolled lamb ribs. What we ask you to do for those lamb categories is to judge each of the cuts. If you wanted to judge each of those cuts, give it that aggregate score we've been talking about. Looking at that box number 10, perfectly French chops, beautifully presented. It's an excellent looking box, 10s all day, not a problem. Drop down to 9. Again, you're only getting French chops, but they look amazing, and you wouldn't judge that down because it doesn't have pulled lamb and it doesn't have the other things that the other box has done. On its own merit, beautiful looking chops, beautifully Frenched, a 9 all day. Coming down to 8, you've got the same sort of setup with the chops. They're laid out different, little bit inconsistency in the sizing and the sourcing. Give it an 8 any day of the week, that's not a problem. Alright, moving on to pork ribs. Pork ribs up there for the 10 box. They're not overpacking the box, they're not underpacking the box. They've got a nice sourcing, there's no gaps in between the pork ribs. That would quite happily be a 10 any day. That is an excellent looking box. You're moving down for a 9 or an 8 in a pork rib box. They might be uneven in the way that they have been cut, or the sourcing is gluggy, or there is the gaps in between the pork ribs. That would be reasons to perhaps demark down on the pork rib score for appearance. When it comes to pork, for the hand in for pork, you can have multiple different cuts in that pork box as well. We encourage you to try all of those cuts, although it is not mandatory to try those cuts. If some of those cuts are delicious and amazing and some of those cuts are not so much so, we ask you to give that median score of those cuts. Alright, these are some of the negative things that we would slightly mark down when we see them in a box. Messy presentation or poor slicing, that will be penalised. Unappealing colours and patchy sourcing in the box as it comes in. Overcrowding in the box, trying to jam too much protein into the box is visually unappealing. Fat that's not rendered down, and protein that is too chewy, rubbery, or just not appealing at all. Infractions can be foreign objects that are found in the boxes, such as toothpick, foil, twine, or even we've had snails in the past. It could also be because a piece of food is not cooked, or is there not enough food in the box, as in there is not enough portions provided to that minimum of 6 in the box. Judges are instructed to raise their hands if they locate a foreign object in the box and call over one of the head judges. ABA crew member take a photo, and the judges are then instructed to judge the box as if there was no infraction. In the event that a portion of meat is drastically undercooked or raw, the judge is still only allowed to score a minimum of 5, but the head judge may award an infraction in the tally room after taking a photo as evidence.
The head judges are trained to locate judges that may not be taking the process as seriously as they should be, and maintaining professionalism and integrity at all times. If you are scoring differently to other judges, we might ask you to step aside and have a chat to make sure that you have an understanding of the judge's process. If that first portion you have feels like a 10, give it a 10. Go with your gut on this one. Do not hold back and give it a 9 or an 8, just in case something better comes along. When judging, we ask you to use your poker faces. No collaborating with other judges. And when you do, look at the proteins. No oohs and ahs, or check this out, mate. Do not change scores after the fact. When a box comes to your table, the table captain will open the box and present it to the judges. The table captain will show you the box number and get you to write that on your scorecard. They will then open the box and get you to judge presentation. When the table captain presents the box, you are to write down your presentation scores straight away. Whilst you are judging, you are not allowed to go into the teams' areas and collaborate with any teams throughout the competition process. After the judging process is done, we then encourage you to talk amongst yourselves at the table to discuss what you liked the best and what you didn't. And usually we find you all agree on the same portion. Once the first turn-in box hits the table, we ask for judges to remain quiet until the last turn-in box has been judged. When judging between portions, we ask that you cleanse your palate with water and the crackers provided. We also ask that you only drink water at the judge's table. No alcohol is to be consumed while the judging process is going on, or coffee or Coke, as this affects your flavour profile. We encourage you to cleanse your palate in between each portion because certain flavours may conflict with others.
Thank you again for your time watching this video. We really hope that it was a great resource for you to understand the process before you arrive at your first competition, or to give yourself a refresher on the day. One other key point is maintaining integrity for the teams. Please ensure that you're not taking photos of any of the hand-in boxes, but we do encourage you to take photos of your placemat. Please make sure that the scorecard is not visible in that photo, and please do not post any photos until after the presentation ceremony on the day of the competition. We really want you to promote that you've enjoyed your experience as a judge and ask you to share those photos on social media, but make sure that we are maintaining integrity for the teams that have spent all that time and money to get to the competition. To wrap this up, we look forward to seeing you at the next competition. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to join us on social media. We have a Facebook page and group, and join us on Instagram and share those photos. But don't forget, not till after the competition presentation.